Yeah. Some backpack raps. Turn it up. Hey yo, life's a bitch and then you die, yeah we knew that, but screw that. I'll toast to the future, not where the crew at. It's FTB until I'm 6 feet deep. Yeah, we done started a movement, a leader, never been a sheep. So I don't follow the crowd, I'm trying to make my own lane. Lost a lot in this life, but I still got more to gain. Never take for granted the fans who've been waiting for the day I blow like Nagasaki on everyone, ignoring the name. Verses pour from my mind like that Kentucky bourbon. But I was born in the shy, my mentality's urban. Never was sure about my purpose, but I know one thing's for certain. I came here to fuck up the game till I'm wanted for murder. Gotta be honest though, I know I got talent and I'm driven to make my vision come to fruition. No indecision, achieved a lot in life that some said I wouldn't. So what's the difference when it comes to this rap shit they saying I couldn't? Bound to fail, I ask them why. Cause I'm white in my 30s, I got a family and work a normal fucking job. You must be kidding, man, that fuels the fire. And I'm prepared as I get bigger for haters to put me through the wire. But I won't let it bring me down, I got that tunnel vision. Like a horse in a derby, I'm just focused on winning. Passing up my peers, no wonder why I'm always grinning. But when it comes to my enemies, my trigger finger itching. Don't like the negativity, I'm only moving up. So if you ain't with me on the grind, then how can you say I don't do enough? Soon enough, they all go see I proved enough and rock with it. All from the bottom, there ain't no stopping it. Music's my passion and I made a promise to always crush whatever the fuck was in front of me. So let's be honest, do I? Hell yeah, they know the flow dumb. And one thing's for certain, if you don't chase your dream, it won't come. But you can't ever chase your dream if you don't run. So I'm gunning for the tip top, homie, and then some. Make it a habit of smashing raps in my backpack like snack packs. I got my cat backwards, listening to Mac Miller. Got some Nikes on my feet, running them laps around my peers, but they too proud and cocky to admit defeat. But I ain't taking prisoners, they on my plate. It's time to eat, it's time to show them what I'm about. Cause then they'll want a fucking feature, what a piece. That's cool though, I really can't blame them. They'd rather do a track with your boy, cause they won't be getting nowhere if they hate them. But in the end, I love this hip hop shit. So I'm gone, got a plane to catch. Kick rocks, bitch.
Welcome to HomeFront Sitrep. I hope you're in for a great show today, because I'm just a veteran talking about what's on my mind and maybe yours.
You can find HomeFront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can also check out HomeFront Sitrep's YouTube channel.
Buckle up, the show is starting. Welcome, everybody, to a Monday edition of HomeFront Sitrep. How is everybody doing? Mr. Sam Dees, how are you, sir?
Good, man. Good. Wrapping up some last minute shopping for Thanksgiving. So I got to make some side dishes to go to the in-laws' house and, doing the honey-do list that she left me for today. And then, getting prepared, obviously, for Thanksgiving. But then we have a jump into UC this weekend, too. So trying to coordinate, the jump and who's jumping and how am I going to get the gear from the shop down and all that good stuff. But yeah, again, I got great teammates that are on top of it and reaching out and saying, what do I need to get? So.
Right. Well, weather permitting, because I know it's supposed to get pretty bad this upcoming weekend with the temperature wise and stuff. So
yeah, temperature doesn't matter. It's the wind, the rain. We'll jump in snow, but yeah, the temperature, it doesn't matter. We nice. I think we have 4 or 5 left in the year. We'll close out, I think December 28th is our last one.
Nice.
And then we get about a month and a half off. We'll do our end of year stuff / beginning of the year stuff, and then we'll kick off again down in Florida with World Polo League, and I think we're down there every other week once we just start jumping. So
Heck yeah, heck
yeah,
yeah. So today I had PT at 09:30 this morning, and she did not take it easy on me this morning. I'm like, holy cow. Of course, the weekend I was very active, so I was already sore going into PT this
yeah,
morning. Um, and I just need to get better of doing more here at the house, and like I do it, but I don't do it. I don't think I do it enough here at the house. And especially with Saturday, we got up and we left, and I didn't get home till like 8:30, 9 o'clock on Saturday. And then the next morning we get up, go to church, and then I come back home, did some PT, and then of course we had the podcast on Sunday night last night, and it just I just need to get better at doing it on my own.
discipline.
I know, right? I need to go back into the Marine Corps training and throw in some discipline there.
I mean, that's one of the hardest things, is you go to physical therapy, or they come to your house, right? And they work you out, and you're like, man, I just need to take it a little bit easier than what they did. But then it puts you back,
Yeah,
right? So that you take those easy steps every single day, and then you go back into see the physical therapist. They come back to the house, and now they're taking you beyond your point
yeah,
that you're used to doing, and it does cause some issues. I mean, I was guilty of it,
yeah.
and then the second time when they put the second rod in my leg, I overdid it, and it's like,
Oof.
yeah, I just need to do what they're telling me to do, and nothing more, nothing less. Just do it how they say it, step by step. And I mean, I still have some issues with flexion and all that stuff with my ankle, but other than that, it's all good.
Yeah, PT's fun. So the last thing I did before I left, she put me on the leg press, and she started me out at a low weight, and I was like, "Oh, we need to add a little bit more weight," because I couldn't force myself to bend it more. I was like, "Well, can you add a little bit more weight?" And then that still wasn't going where I wanted it to. And I was like, "Can you add a little bit more?" And then I got a little bit better bend in it, and I was like, "Well, can you add a little more?" And she's like, "Well, we don't want to overdo it."
Yeah,
And I was like, "I understand that." I said, "But I also need to force the knee to move, because I can get to a certain point, and then it just wants to stop. Like
right.
like on the bike, I can get almost all the way around, but I can't get over that threshold of going this way. And then when I
Yeah,
go
yeah.
when I come back around this way, I can only get to a certain point. And
Okay,
I
to
probably
the bottom, you have that issue coming back up.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, so I can get maybe, this about this far from, completing a full cycle, but I can't get past that threshold. And
yeah,
I'll get there. It's just I'm a week behind, if not a little bit longer than that behind. But I just need to do that before scar tissue builds up, and then they have to reopen my knee and clean me back out and
yeah,
sew me back together, pretty
yeah. I mean,
much.
stretching too, will help, or heat, because
Yeah,
when you put ice on it, it does this. You put heat on it, and it'll come apart. So those fibers will separate a little bit if you do heat, whether it's a compress or a blanket or whatever,
yeah,
and
yeah.
that will help.
Yeah, so I actually got in the tub for the very first time in a hot bath. Like, I don't take hot baths. Normally, it's a lukewarm shower at best, because that's the way I like it, because I stay hot anyway. So I was like, James, after I got my staples out and I was able to take my bandage off, he goes, "Bro, the best thing I found out was get in a hot bath
Yep.
and just let it soak until it gets cold." So that's what I did, and I was like, "Man, it did feel better." But I do have that little cooler thing that you can
Oh,
put ice in, or hot
yeah,
water. So I'm gonna do both of those. So,
yeah.
but yeah, so last night we had a great guest, Miss Philippia Bagley. If you missed that episode, it is live right now. You can go find it on Amazon, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, or you can go to HomeFront Sitrep podcast page and you can pick it up there, or our YouTube channel and find it there. Now she is a British. Uh, She's a British military, British Army. She did what, 14, I think she said 14,
Yeah.
15 years. And now she's a psychotherapist where she focuses on mental health within the military community in the UK. And tonight's guest actually wrote a book called Relentless Courage, Winning the Battle Against Frontline Trauma. So this episode will kind of piggyback off of last night's episode, which is amazing. It just happened to work out that way. I don't know how it did, but it just happened to work out that way. So on Amazon, you can go on Amazon, you can find it there. It says, let's see, I'm trying to read the thing here about the book so I can tell you what the book is about. Going over her. Well, come on, my
Yeah,
computer's
and he served in the Air Force as security forces, which is their version of the MP, and then as a police officer too. So it's a little bit of both of the military and police officer and the trauma that they see. And we talk about all the time how our first responders see trauma on an almost daily basis. And it's different than what we saw in combat, but at the same breath, sometimes it's worse because it's kids or women or decapitations or a murder or something like that. So
they see it daily, man. That's the crazy thing. So this book, it says, in his international #1 best-selling book, Relentless Courage, Winning the Battle Against Frontline Trauma, along with Dr. Shauna Springer, PhD, they tackle the complexity of trauma within the law enforcement community, uncovering the unspoken barriers and outline a path to healing. And we were talking about that the other night, where there's always a lot of times we get in our head that there's no way out of the trauma that we are facing.
Yeah.
But there's always a way out. So I'm super, super excited about having Mr. Michael Sugrue come on and talk about his book and his military career and his law enforcement career. So
yeah, it's on Audible too. So I just downloaded. I had an extra credit, so I'll be listening. That'll be my next book. I'm in the currently doing one about Operation Anaconda. But yeah, the next book will be Relentless Courage for sure.
Nice. I did finally get to read all of Betsy Ross's book, The Fight series. I did wind up getting to read all of those. So if you haven't seen Betsy Ross's book, go to fightwithbetsyross.com and check her book out. She's got 4 books called Fight. Amazing read. So without further ado, let's bring Mr. Michael Sugrue up to the stage. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Doing great. How about you guys?
We're hanging in there like a hair in a biscuit, if that makes sense.
It does. It does make sense.
So welcome to the show. If you can do me a favor, introduce yourself to our listeners and our watchers, if you don't mind.
So I'm originally from the San Francisco Bay Area. My law enforcement career actually started as a child, believe it or not, as a police volunteer. And I pretty much knew my whole life what I wanted to do. I always had a plan. And I went into college, got a full scholarship to the Air Force, graduated in 1998, became a security forces officer, ended up serving in Europe, South America, Middle East, did 6.5 years active duty, got out in 2004, moved back here to the San Francisco Bay Area, and I went straight into civilian law enforcement. Ended up doing a little bit over 14 years in civilian law enforcement. A bunch of different things, from patrol officer to training officer, detective, was undercover on a statewide drug task force. So basically like the California version of the DEA, was promoted to sergeant, was involved in just a horrendous critical incident. And prior to that was involved in hundreds and hundreds of critical incidents. But that particular one was really my breaking point. And it led me down a very, very dark path. Which almost cost my life, but I'm now on the other side of that. And that's why I'm here today, is to smash the stigma around talking about mental health, but especially for our service members, our military veterans, and all first responders. So police officers, firefighters, paramedics, dispatchers. The reality is that all those groups I just mentioned, the #1 threat is ourselves. and we are much more likely to die by our own hands than the hands of another. And that's what I want to talk about today.
Mm. Yeah, we talk about it on numerous times on the podcast here that we sometimes are our worst enemy because we've been drilled in our head that we don't ask for help. It's been over and over and over again. And last night when we were talking with Philippia, she was like, it's like a bucket, and it just slowly drips in there until it finally overfills. And I think the stigma of asking for help, especially as males, we don't want to ask for help because we don't want to show a sign of weakness. And the stigma is that if we do ask for help, it is showing a sign of weakness, but it's not. We need to ask for help, and sometimes it takes a swift kick in the butt to say, "Hey, you need to go get help." Like me in my situation, after 15 years of marriage, my wife was like, "Hey, you need to go get help, or I'm out the door." That was my kick in my butt to go get help, and I definitely love. I'm excited about your book and stuff like that. So um,
Well, I mean,
let's.
but there's also, if you're in the operational forces or you're, patrolling the streets and you say you have a mental health issue, there's also that fear that you're going to be put on desk duty or, not be able to do your job. And as someone who has led, trained, and mentored, Marines my entire career, me going to seek help, I'm like, yeah, that's not happening because I'm gonna be riding the pine. I won't be out there leading, training, mentoring again. And I watched it happen within even the air wing community because you're working on an $83 million aircraft that are going to have people on it. And yes, it's about the machine, but it's also about the people. And if your headspace isn't right, they're putting you in an admin role, so you're not out there doing that. And it's the same thing with your first responders. They get put on the pine or administrative leave until they can get themselves straight. So there's that fear as well.
Now, you bring up a lot of good points, but there's a lot of layers to this issue. And the first one we talked about was that stigma, and that starts, basic training, or it starts in the police academy. And part of it is that we have to be these invincible superheroes that go out there and run towards danger, literally when everybody's running away from it. And we see people on the worst days of their lives, and especially first responders. I mean, we could have 2 3 critical incidents in a single shift in a single day.
Yeah.
And so what I'm advocating for is that we're not going to change that mentality that we have because we're the last line. But what I am saying is, like, we need to acknowledge the humanity of what we see and deal with on a daily basis. And it could be as simple is just talking to your partner, after you clear the call, after you clear the event, and just acknowledge, hey man, that was really messed up. Like, I can't get that image out of my mind right now. And it's really hitting me to the core. And you just have a discussion. It can be as simple as that. But like in my case, I let it bottle up for years and years and years, where it got to the point where I couldn't do it by myself. I waited so long to talk about these things. I had to get professional help, whether that be therapists or counselors, going through week-long programs, medications, all these different things. But I truly think that if we start these discussions from day one, it's not going to get to that level. It's not going to get to the point where you have to bring in all these outside resources. We can actually deal with it on our own. But you also brought up, being sidelined or being put on desk duty. But the thing is, like, and this is a reality, I hate to say it, but things are getting better, but we have a long ways to go. And I hear time and time again, when people reach out for help, their agencies or their departments turn their back on them, and they put them out on an island by themselves.
Yeah.
And literally they get outcasted. Nobody wants to work with them. Nobody's checking on them. They treat them like they've got some kind of disease or some kind of cancer that's going to spread. And this is, in my opinion, what actually leads to suicide. It's when our family, whether it's our green family in the military or our blue family in law enforcement or red family firefighters, everything's good until it's not. And it's in that moment when we reach out to that family and we say, look, we need your help, and they turn their back on us. That's what leads to suicide. That's what pushes people over the edge. And so, part of this is having leaders, people in high up positions, set the example and say, look, this is normal. Like, these things are going to affect you at some point. You can't just pretend like they're not there. You can't just, put it between you and the event and say, look, I don't know these people. They don't mean anything to me. It's not going to affect me. But meanwhile, inside, it's slowly stacking up and stacking up. And, you brought up the bucket. I say a jar. For me, my jar was filling up. And it was that critical incident as a brand new sergeant that was my tipping point. And it caused my jar to start overflowing, all over the place. And we got to make it to where our jar never overflows, that we talk about this stuff and address it as it's happening. But again, there is so much more work that needs to be done. And one other thing that I find really unique is that, I'm both military and law enforcement, but the public has widely accepted that military people may have PTSD.
Yeah.
Especially combat soldiers that go off, they see these horrendous things. When they came home, they may have post-traumatic stress injury, what I like to call it. But for whatever reason, the public does not equate that to our first responders. And I find it baffling because, you guys said it in the beginning of the show, but if you're a combat soldier, you go off to a hostile area for a defined period of time, there's a known threat, and you may do that once, maybe 2-3 times in a career. All right. And then you come back stateside, or you come back to your base, to the safe zone. You're not operational, you're out of that danger. But for especially police officers, we're in combat every single day. And I'm talking some people 30 straight years. If a police officer now is working 30 years, think about that. Combat every single day. There is no safe zone. You're always watching over your back. I mean, even when you're off duty, you're a target. Your family's a target. And it's just that constant stress and pressure, and it takes a toll.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, being a police officer, depending on uh, what area you live in of the country, you're, like you said, you're always a target, and then your family's also a target as well. Especially like if you live, along the border, because you got to worry about the cartel. Like if you bust their drugs and stuff, you got to worry about that. And then if you live in a town that's prone with gang violence and stuff like that, you always have to worry about that target on your back. So for one, you're dealing with PTS from the stuff that you've seen on a daily basis. Then your anxiety is picked up, and then plus your hypervigilance is also picked up. And now there's studies that's saying that the PTS is linked to other health issues as well. So it's all one of those things that combine together to make just our life hell. I mean, and it, those layers, and like you said, you got to talk about it, as it's happening, and hopefully your chain of command, which I know here in the city that I live in, they do help their police officers with getting help if they need to, and they don't put them out on an island, which I'm not saying that's for all departments, but I do think I think it's slowly getting better at other larger departments as well. I don't know. I do have a lot of friends that are on the force, and some of them say that, like, I got one that he's going through a divorce right now, and they said, hey, here, you need to go call this therapist because he's dealing with a divorce. Plus, he's a detective, so he does all this, homicide detective, and he gets to see all these bodies on a daily, and it's just it's crazy. So.
Well, and the first responders get it from their family too, right? The stress from their family, because it probably more so when there is a in the line of duty death that gets reported on the news. So now that spouse has that in the back of their head, even though it's there anyway, that every day that there's something that could possibly happen to their loved one, and we talk about it all the time, that when we're here back in the States training, that possibility is there, but it's slim, right? Even though it's still there. These guys and girls go out every single day, and that threat's real. I mean, it's not even small towns. We had Officer Conley that was killed here down in Scott County. The guy had a warrant, and he didn't want to go to jail, so he pulled his gun and shot Officer Conley, point blank. So it's not just the big towns; it's everywhere. I mean, there was that one in southern Kenton County here with a young trooper pulled him over, and the guy just opened fire on him. So it's just. it's that threat is there every single day as a police officer, and politically or not, it's there, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And it's the stresses and stressors that are there within that line of duty is, I think more significant than what we have in the military. And even though some of the senior leadership within the military has started recognizing post-traumatic stress and traumatic brain injury, there's still that fact that you're going to be pulled out of your job.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you don't get the opportunity to show that you're still capable to do the job. Until that happens, there's nothing's going to change, and the mindset of a lot of people aren't going to change.
That's the ironic thing, is that if we have healthy first responders, especially like when I talk about police officers, and the studies have shown that there's going to be less bad uses of force, there's going to be less, bad police shootings. I mean, it escalates, if we don't get help, things are going to get worse. We could have a tipping point or breaking point. We're out on a call, we're out on a stop, maybe somebody attacks us, whatever may happen. But if we're healthy, both physically and mentally, that's going to directly equal better police service to all the communities that we serve. And that's why this has to be a priority. And that's why, the public needs to understand this. And that's part of the reason why I wrote this book with Doc Springer, because we want to show the true human side behind the badge and behind the uniform. And I've actually had a lot of people that I know from my gym that, had no idea what I did. I introduced myself to them, told them about this book. I even knew that many had adverse or really bad experience with police officers in this state or other states. And I said, look, I want you to read this. I want your honest, no holds barred feedback. And every single one of them, it changed their perspective on how they looked at law enforcement officers. Because many people see us as uncaring, not having feelings. We're these robots that go out there in uniform, completely detached, and we don't give a shit. And it could be, nothing could be further from the truth.
Yeah, they don't get to see the human side of you.
Exactly.
Right? They see Sergeant Sugrue. That's it. And what the media or whoever has portrayed police officers as being, right? No matter if it's something happened in Chicago, that's your fault because you're a police officer, right? They don't get to see Michael. And within the military, they get to see that side of that service member when they come home, because they see that separation. They don't, because they'll see us out in town or whatever, or we go back home and they knew us prior to going into the service, and we're still that same person. I'm still Sammy Deeds when I go home. I'm 47 years old and I'm still Sammy Deeds to 90% of the people in my hometown. And even my teammates that knew me prior to joining the skydive team, they see me as Gunny Deeds. And it's even though they still get to see me, but it's that military mindset that I had coming in that they remember me as. And, I'm sure it's the same with you guys. And a lot of them don't get to see you outside of uniform or interacting with your families or interacting with the public other than in uniform.
Exactly. And, what's important to note is that we're human. And like you said, we have families, we have loved ones, and we deal with all those normal stressors, health issues, financial issues, family issues that, the people's houses that we go to, we're dealing with the same things. And they don't see that. They don't realize that. And, so we're getting at both levels. I mean, on duty, off duty, and it takes a toll. And so, like I said, we also, though, and we need to take some ownership here, that we need to let the public in and let them know who we are, and let them know that we are human, that we do care, that these things do take a toll on us. And, most of us signed up to this job because we truly want to make a difference. For most of us, this is a calling. This isn't just a job or something random that we said, oh, let me go try to do this. Like for me, I knew as a child, this is what I wanted to do. And I went out there every single day, putting my life on the line for complete strangers. I left my house every day, left my daughter knowing I may not come home because I'm out there protecting and serving my community. And how many people are willing to do that? I don't know of too many other than our veterans and our first responders. I mean, and we're out there doing it every single day.
Yeah, it's a very low percentage. I think we were talking about like the military percentage is like 1%
that
of
are currently serving.
that are currently serving, and
Yeah.
I think police officers are roughly right around there too, because a lot of people, are against the police, and which, like I said, I got a lot of friends that are police officers that were prior military, and it's just like it's that servant's heart that we had. So I'm like you. When I was at a very young age, probably 4 or 5, somebody asked me what I wanted to do, and I was like, I'm going in the military. That was my plan from a very young age. And even as I got older, people were like, "Are you sure you want to go in the military?" And I was like, "Yep." I was so gung ho. I didn't know what branch, back then, but as I got older and started looking into the different branches, I was like, well, I want to go to the Marines. And my freshman year, I talked to a recruiter. My sophomore year, I joined a delayed entry program, and then went from there. And of course, I served from 97 to 01. 9/11 happened, got recalled back in, and was in until 04. And it's just one of those things. And even now, after I got out of the Marine Corps the second time, I actually try to be a police officer here in the big city. I'm outside of the big city, but um, I was not what they were looking for. Let's put it that way. At the time, I was a white male, and they weren't looking for white males to be on the force. So I made it all the way through. Like I went through the chief's panel interview, did everything that I was supposed to do, and didn't get selected. And I did that 6 times. I went through the process 6 times, and I was like, "C'est la vie." It wasn't meant to be. Which I have the utmost respect for anybody out there, whether you're EMS, fire, police, military, anything that's related to serving and protecting our country or our people. And it just it blows me. It blows my mind that police officers get such a bad rap because you got some dumbasses, and excuse my French on that, but you got some dumbasses that mess it up for the good ones. And everybody sees, oh, you're wearing a badge, so you're a bad guy because you're wearing a badge.
Yeah.
No, there's a lot of great police officers out there that deal with daily trauma, and the stigma of, hey, they're not human, they're just a badge, basically. I think that needs to be eliminated somehow, and I'm hoping one of these days it will be, because you guys are not robots. The stuff that you guys see, whether it's a car wreck or you're walking up to a car that's reported stolen, whether they got guns inside the vehicle or whatnot. So you guys, the PTSD level that you guys have, it surpasses somewhat of what we deal with in the military, because like we said, we might be in a combat zone for 6 months, 8 months to a year, and then we come home, and then we're home for a while, and then we might go back, we might not, depending. But you guys, every day you walk out that door, it's in the forefront of your mind. Am I going to come home today? Or it's in the forefront of your spouse's brain. Hey, is my husband or wife going to come home today? So it just blows my mind. And I was looking here. I'm on Goodreads, because I wanted to see like reviews of your book and stuff like that. And you're at a 4.89 stars out of 5. That is friggin' phenomenal.
Yeah, actually,
Phenomenal.
if you go to Amazon, we have right now, I think 631 reviews, and out of those, there's over 500 written reviews with 4.9 stars. And so, there's reviews on Audible and Goodreads, but the vast majority are on Amazon. And most that you'll read is that, and it's true, this book, it's saving careers, it's saving relationships, but most importantly, it's saving lives, and literally all over the world. And we've sold this book in over 8 countries. I get messages almost daily, and it's groundbreaking. I don't know of any other book like it that has, a true life, gut wrenching story, but then is also balanced with a culturally competent clinician who breaks everything down and explains why these things are impacting us the way they are. And again, it's just, it'll blow your mind. That's why I'm excited for you to read it and to listen to it. The Audible, though, we actually did in our own voice. I had to relive every single event when I went into that studio, and it wiped me out. And when you listen to the Audible, it's like watching a movie. I mean, it's not, like somebody just randomly reading a book. It is literally, I am reliving every single intense moment as I'm recording it. And so that's why I'm so excited to hear your thoughts afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for
I think
sure.
I've got, I don't know, 45 minutes left on this one that I'm currently listening to. I just can't read anymore. My brain doesn't allow me to, the attention span isn't there anymore. But I do spend a lot of time in the vehicle traveling because of my job. And 90% of the time I'm listening to Audible. I've got a trip to Vegas coming up, and my plane ride out and back will be listening to the book. So yeah, once I'm done, I'll definitely give you some honest feedback for sure.
Absolutely. And you bring up a good point, because actually one of my biggest regrets is that we didn't do the Audible sooner. We didn't do the Audible until the book had been out for a year and a half. And I'm also the same, where I just can't focus like I used to. I can't sit down and read a book. I'm just too many distractions. I'm on edge. I can't retain that information like I used to. But with an Audible, I can really feel it. I can retain it. And so, again, realizing so many soldiers out there have TBI, so many first responders have post-traumatic stress injury. This Audible is an absolute game changer. I just wish we'd done it sooner, because it's really making a difference.
Yeah, I'm definitely I'm like you guys as well. I can't sit down and read a book. Now I can have the book in front of me, but I'm listening to it, and then I can definitely comprehend it that way. But if I just have the book, I zone out within like the first 30 seconds, and it's just like I'm reading it, but I'm not really comprehending what's going on.
Exactly.
That's like the fight series with Betsy Ross. I didn't get the audio books. I just downloaded the stuff on Kindle, and I was reading them, but it took me so long to get through all 4 books because I had to go back and reread, because I was like, well, what did I just read? And I had to go back and reread it. And it's just like, so I'm like you guys, I have to have the audio books, and I'm definitely going to get the audio book so I can listen to it as well, because from what I can see from all the reviews, everything's been positive. I mean, so far, I don't think you got one star, and that's probably some troll, more than likely some troll out there.
Actually, that's a disgraced lieutenant in Florida who got fired for sexual harassment. He actually cyber stalked the city manager. So yeah, it's there's some funny stories there, but yeah, there's always going to be the trolls.
Yeah.
Always going to be the trolls.
Well, I mean, you have an officer that was not the greatest, right? And then you have an officer that's out there that's trying to make an impact within their community and doing good things and doing positive things. And they're like, yeah, it's not going to happen for this guy, and they, the power of the keyboard, right? So,
yeah, exactly. But I have to tell you, you bring up another thing, is that in this book, we talk about what I call administrative betrayal or institutional betrayal. Some people may know it as sanctuary trauma, but I actually talk about how certain people in my agency turned their back on me when I needed them most. And I talk about that effect. And so, this is a topic that most people aren't talking about, but it's like that ugly elephant in the room that everybody knows about, but nobody wants to acknowledge.
Yeah.
And the truth is that, especially law enforcement, we eat our own better than anybody. And so that actually was a surprise to us, because we were a little hesitant to write about that, include it. We weren't sure how it was going to be perceived, but it's actually been the #1 theme out of the book that's resonating with readers and listeners, because they're experiencing it as well. And it turns out that most of us are experiencing at some point in our careers that administrative betrayal or institutional betrayal.
Yeah, it happens in the military too. So we talked about it. It was a while ago, but my fitness reports, like some of my final fitness reports before I left the Marine Corps, I got selected to go be part of the traumatic brain injury study down in San Antonio for the Department of Defense. Came back from that, and they're like, "Oh, Gunny D was gone for this extended period of time." Blah blah. It's not like I was on leave. It was a request from DoD for me to go down there and take part of this trial. And then some of the comments from my reporting and my reviewing officers are a much healthier Gunny Deeds would rank X amount higher. And I'm like, really? Because I got blown up twice, because I've had to that point 30 plus surgeries. I'm on my way out the door. You're going to give me crap fitness reports?
Yeah.
Seriously?
And
so I mean, it happens all around, and it's ridiculous. And when I was the squadron gunny, they put like the medical cases or the admin separation guys and girls up with me. And there was one guy that was involved in a motor vehicle accident, and they kept holding his promotion. I'm like, you can't do that. He's on medical. You can't hold the promotion. You have to have other reasons. So I ended up getting like 3 or 4 guys promoted, when they came up to me. And then, of course, their command staff was all mad at me. I'm like, do your job and I don't have to do it. And then, of course, then there's that backlash from the upper echelon too. So, I definitely can relate to the command betrayal and, holding things against you. And I'm excited to listen to the book. I might even just stop where I'm at in this other one, start listening tonight.
You won't be disappointed, but I'll tell you why that administrative betrayal or command betrayal affects us so much. And I never wanted to hear about this. I never wanted to talk about it. It wasn't until I went through Save a Warrior, which is a program that it changed my life. And this is where I learned about childhood trauma. And it turns out that many military members, and I would say the vast majority of first responders, have some form of childhood trauma. And there's a range, there's a scale. Like for me, I consider mine on the minor end of the scale. I had a biological father who was an alcoholic and a drug addict. But I had a great mother, I had a great stepfather, I had a good upbringing. But on the far end of the spectrum, for a lot of people, it's, physical abuse, sexual abuse. There's different things. But the thing is that these experiences, often as young children, actually make us very good at what we do today. So we learn to become adaptive. We overcome adversity, resilient. We become natural caretakers. And we grow up and become these big badasses, whether it be in the military or on the streets as firefighters and police officers.
Or both in many cases. And we have these very successful careers and everything is going well. And we never dealt with that childhood trauma because we're not going back to that time when we were weak and we were vulnerable. We already got past that, right? Yeah.
We moved on with our lives. We're successful. We're doing all these great things. Well, it's when our new family, our blue family, green family, red family, years later into our career, when they do turn their back on us, it brings back all that unresolved childhood trauma, which a lot of times is like abandonment, and it brings it right to the surface. And what I try to tell people is that there's multiple layers of trauma. You have the childhood trauma, then you have the workplace or the battlefield trauma. On top of that, you may have what's called moral injury, which is where, you're basically doing things in the line of your work, whether it be in combat or as a police officer or firefighter, that conflict with your religious beliefs or your moral values. They're right in the scope of your employment and your job, but they conflict with your values and morals. And then that last layer is that administrative betrayal, institutional betrayal, or sanctuary trauma. And for me, I medically retired in 2018 from law enforcement from post-traumatic stress. And I had dealt with, the battlefield trauma, the street trauma, and I thought I was doing good. And it wasn't until something else happened in my personal life that brought it all right back up. And I learned about this program called Save a Warrior.
Yeah.
Which is for, active military or veterans and first responders. And it only focuses on that childhood trauma. And it turns out that was that last piece that I needed in my recovery process, in my journey to healing. And so that's why I want people to know that it's not just you. You know, I'm not special, I'm not unique. I'm just willing to talk about these things. And when you read or listen to my book, you're going to be constantly saying me too as you're reading it. Even though we're from different parts of the country, we had different MOS or FSC, or we did different jobs. I'm going to tell you right now that as you're reading and listening, all of these experiences you're going to relate to. And the impacts on us, on our physical health, our mental health, on our relationships, on our marriages, on our children, it's all the same.
Yeah, especially the children when they're at a younger age and more vulnerable. I notice my oldest is 18 now, and I notice some of the things that he's doing is a direct reflection of me and how I treated my wife and them when I was having a very, very, in a very dark place. And I see it through him sometimes. We got to talk to him about it every now and again. Like, listen, you're not the dad. This is not all right. This isn't how you treat people. This isn't, this isn't good. And if I wish I would have picked up on a lot of that stuff earlier on, but again, I was a gunnery sergeant in the Marines. There was nothing wrong with me.
Yeah.
But there was, and a lot of this stuff. I mean, last night's conversation, the post-traumatic growth, one that Willis and I did a few weeks ago. I wish all that stuff, your book, was around 2005, 2006, 2007 when I was going through this, because my healing process would have started then instead of starting in 2013, 2014.
And
Exactly.
I'm like you, Sam. Like my daughter is almost 18, and she's tries to be the mom of the family, even with me and my wife. And it's just like I know how I was, because childhood trauma is one of the big things that is something that hits on me really hard, because when I was younger, my mom was single, had 4 kids, abusive boyfriends. My brother died in 94. So a lot of trauma there in my childhood. And then, I joined the Marine Corps, seen the shit that I seen in the Marine Corps. And after I got out, some trauma there after I got out of the military as well. And for the most part, I thought I kept it, under control, but there were certain triggers. And we all have triggers. Like a lot of mine is smell, or certain phrases or certain words that just set me off. And luckily my wife has picked up on a lot of those, and we try to avoid it as much as possible, but sometimes it happens. But my daughter, my oldest daughter, she's definitely picked up on how I respond to her mother, when it comes to certain situations, and she tries to do that. And I'm like, babe, you can't talk to your mom the way I talk to your mom. You have to give your mom the utmost respect, and I should too. I know I should, and sometimes like earlier today, I was just so flustered with having PT this morning, and then I didn't get home. I had to take my mother-in-law to the doctor, and then I had this friggin' scam call. They called like 18 times. I'm like, hey, the first time I was like, hey, take me off your list. I don't own that property. I don't know nothing about it. And then after the 18th time they called, I went off, and my blood was boiling. My wife called, and she's like, saying something, and I just went off on her. And as during the conversation, I was like, babe, I am so sorry that I snapped. I'm just frustrated. And so I caught myself, but I also have to tell my daughters, hey, you can't respond to your mom the way I respond to your mom, because it's not right. And they're like, well, you do it. I'm like, I don't mean to do what I do, but you as children shouldn't talk to your mom the way you guys are doing it. So that's a direct reflection of me because of my PTS and my TBI and my hyper vigilance and my anxiety and stuff like that I'm working through with my therapist, because I just started therapy last year. And getting there, it's work in progress. We got to unpeel the onion, as I say, the layers of the onion to get to the root problems. And deal with those triggers and stuff. So
It's not an easy journey, and that's what people need to understand is that for me, it took several years of doing a lot of different things. And these are things that I talk about in detail in the book to get better. And I'm now on the other side of post traumatic stress. I'm living a phenomenal life, but still, there's certain things I need to do daily to maintain my mental health, to maintain my physical health. And I know that if I don't do that, I'll start to slide. I'll get more irritable, like you're saying. My patience will be less. My temper will go up. And those are things that we really need to be aware of. And knowing what your triggers are, like you said, to prepare for it, to avoid it, but also communicating to your loved ones and family members to recognize it and how to help you out of it. Those conversations are key. And we're also talking about generational trauma here. And, you said it, but, our actions will cause trauma to our children and to our loved ones. And we've got to do something to mitigate that, to help stop it, because we don't want them to then share that same trauma with their children and so on and so on. And
yeah,
that's why it's so important to stop it. The buck stops here, as we say. We've got to be the example. We have to put the work and the effort in, and there's going to be bad days, there's going to be good days, there's going to be wins, and there's going to be setbacks. And people need to know it's not going to be easy, but I promise you it will be worth it on the other side of this. And if you put in the work, if you put in the time, I promise you life will get better.
Mm,
100%.
I love it. I definitely can't
Yeah.
wait to read the book. And I did put Save a Warrior link here in chat as well. So if you're watching, you're listening, it's saveawarrior.org. You can go check them out. Looks like they do some phenomenal work.
Yeah, they got stuff all over. I mean, there's one up here in Ohio. They actually have like a compound and stuff that they do a couple events a year up there. They had just had a huge fundraiser to build a building and some other stuff up there. And I know one of the motorcycle groups that we do work with, a lot of those guys have been through the program, promote the program, and live and die by the program.
And it's free. That's the best part. Save a Warrior is 100% free. All you have to do is get yourself there. And they used to have different locations, but right now it's only in Ohio. Like you said, DAV actually gave them a grant of over $1 million.
Yep.
And they're running cohorts, I think 2, 3, 4 sometimes a month. And it is for men and women, but the cohorts are not co-ed. So when you go, you're just going to be with your own sex for a reason, because we're talking about childhood trauma. But I will tell people listening and watching, it takes 5 minutes to apply online. And all that does is it sets up a phone call with one person, and that phone call will determine whether or not the program is for you.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And you're not obligated by going online and signing up. It's just going to set up one phone call. So I encourage you to look into it. It changed my life, and it's free. I would have paid $500,000 for what that program gave me.
Heck yeah. So do they focus on families as well, or is it just the veteran or police officer?
So they don't have family programs. It is only for the veteran, active service member, or the first responder. But there are other programs out there like the West Coast Post-Trauma Retreat. I talk about this in the book as well. And this one started in California, but they do have locations all over the US now. And they have a partnership program called SOS, which is spouses and significant others. And the cool thing is that if you go through West Coast Post-Trauma Retreat, or WCPR, if you complete that, then your spouse or your significant other can actually go through the spouse program for free.
Mm.
There is a wait, for both. So I encourage people to look into
Yeah.
it now, get on the wait list, and there is a cost for the WCPR. But like I said, that both these programs saved my life. Phenomenal programs.
I love it. I love it. So is there anything that we didn't hit on that you want to talk about, or have we hit on everything?
Well, I think what's important to know is that I was ignorant. I didn't know there's endless resources out there for, first responders and military members. And in our book, Relentless Courage, we have a whole resource section. that has vetted confidential resources, everything from phone lines and text lines, which are answered by other first responders. You don't have to give your agency, you don't have to give your name, to week-long retreats or programs for post-traumatic stress like Save a Warrior, West Coast Post-Trauma Retreat. There's also the Mighty Oaks Foundation. I mean, there's literally probably like 30, 40 different programs around the world where you can go for a week. Many are free, and you can get healing. And that's what I want people to know, is that there's endless resources out there. I mean, tons of resources.
Yeah.
So
and a lot of them have started opening up to the first responders, because a lot of them were military specific at first, and then they branched out because they realized that our first responders, like you said, and we've said numerous times, experience trauma on an almost daily basis.
exactly. And like you said, many military members become first responders.
Yeah.
And the thing is, we're more alike than we think. Whether you've only done one and not the other, we're still brothers and sisters.
Oh yeah.
And we still need that support. And you brought up another organization called Mission 22, which is another program. I went through a year-long program. It was free, called the R&R program, or Recovery and Resilience. It was founded by Green Beret, but that program is open to military and first responders. And like I said, just endless resources out there.
Yeah, so-
what I want people to know is, if you're out there suffering in silence, thinking that it's just you're the only one, I assure you, you're not, because I used to think that way. And again,
Yes.
it almost cost my life. And I want people to know there is hope and there is help.
Yeah. So we focus on a lot on veteran service organizations. That's our primary focus. And I had Nick, what's his name? Nick, but he's the president of the Recovery and Resilience through Mission 22. I think I want to say it's Nick Schwab or something like that.
Okay.
I had him on to talk about the program within Mission 22, because I went in 2019. We went to Indianapolis for one of their galas that they had in Indianapolis for Mission 22, and I really love their program and what they do for veterans. And then I had the pleasure of going through Mighty Oaks a while back, and Jeremy Stallnacker, who's one of the co-founders. My camera's blurry. Jeremy Stallnacker, who was a Marine Corps veteran, co-founder of Mighty Oaks. I had him on the podcast and got to talk about what they do at Mighty Oaks and stuff. So there's a whole plethora of veteran service organizations out there that is doing amazing work. And like Sam said, there's a lot of them have now opened it up to first responders, and then a lot of them are starting to focus on the families as well now, because when you served, Sam served, you guys had kids when you were in the military. Me, I didn't have kids when I was in the military, but my kids were I had kids right after I got out. So in each situation, the family, the spouse and the children served just in a different capacity than the veteran or active duty military or police officer. So I love the fact that a lot of organizations are focusing on families and spouses, as well as the veteran or police officer. So it's just, I just love how the community is shifting focus, strictly, not just focusing on the veteran or police officer, but also the families. It's amazing. So.
Yeah. And what's wild is, you said, you're not alone. Willis and I say it all the time. And it's okay not to be okay, right? It just don't sit there and do nothing about it.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we do say that quite a bit, but it was an honor to have you on here. Do you got anything else you want to say before I put you back in the green room and me and Sam wrap this up?
I'll just say that if anybody does read or listen to Relentless Courage, I would love to hear from you. So please reach out to me. I'm on pretty much every social media platform you can imagine. Just type in Sergeant Michael Sugrue, whether it's LinkedIn, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. X, all these platforms, I'm on it. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Or if you just need help, you need to be pointed towards resources, please reach out. I'm always available.
Well, I'm going to pass your info on to a lot of my law enforcement friends, a lot of them that work within federal law enforcement, Kentucky State Police. So you may get a little bit more in your book sales as those departments, look into that and you start using you as a resource for some of these guys.
And I was just out in Kentucky. I just came back from Kentucky, so I was there last week.
No, nice.
What part of Kentucky were you in?
Henderson, I guess right on the border of Indiana.
Yeah.
So, it's up north.
Yeah. And there's actually a nonprofit, the Defending Heroes Project. So again, another resource, right, where they help get funding for the stellate ganglion block. And the guy that runs it, Joe Whitledge, he's actually an active police officer in Henderson, but he's doing great things. And he just had his first annual conference. So next year, it's going to be even bigger and better. So look for that.
Heck yeah.
Will do. Yeah.
Well, it was our pleasure to have you on. Like I said, I'm gonna throw you in the green room if you want to just hang on till we finish up. When
Awesome.
Me and Sam will come back and talk to you once we wrap up. So
sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thank you again. How cool was that, Mr. Sam?
Dude, I mean, piggybacked off of last night, piggybacked off our post-traumatic growth podcast we did a couple weeks ago. I mean, all these things tying together, especially close to the holiday season, because that's when a lot of people start getting in their own headspace, right? So, with Philippa last night, with Michael tonight, you and I with post-traumatic growth, a couple weeks ago. It's just a lot of great information for everybody that's listening, everybody that's watching. And, it's just been a blessing, especially right here before Thanksgiving.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we know, and we talk about it all the time that veterans and holiday, especially the Thanksgiving season and the Christmas season is really, really, really tough on veterans. And I'm assuming law enforcement as well.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things. Like Christmas has never been the same for me since '94. After my brother passed away and stuff like that, Christmas has never been the same. And being in the military and missing Christmas and then it just sucks for the holiday season for all of us. And mental health, and we talk about it all the time. Mental health is one thing that can lead into a lot of other problems. So you have to focus on fixing yourself before it leads into other health problems, because mental health has been linked to so many different health problems out there.
Well, everything, your heart, your weight, I mean, all of it, ties back to your mental health, right? And in some capacity. And then you add the stress or post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, and it just makes it even worse. And then of course there's the those who have lost their battles with the demons, and whether it's post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, or what else is going on in their life, we can't say it enough that you're not alone. It's okay not to be okay. But reach out to your brothers, reach out to your sisters, reach out to somebody, or reach out to the crisis hotline.
Definitely. You definitely have to reach out to the crisis hotline. So it's 988*1. If you're a veteran, 988. If you're not a veteran, you can reach out to them. You can call them, you can text them, you can go online and chat with them there. And if you don't like the person that you're chatting with, disconnect, call back in and get somebody else. And because you're always going to get somebody else. And I've had one veteran tell me he called 10 times until he got somebody that he felt good with.
Well, you know when you're going to resonate with somebody, right? You know when you're going to connect with somebody, and that you need that person on the other line. You don't need them to fix you. You just need them to listen to you. And you can tell when someone's actively listening or they're just doing their job.
Yeah, reading the script. Yeah.
So,
like we said, 988*1. We're going to play this video, this BetterHelp commercial here. 988*1 if you're a veteran, 988 if you're a family member of a veteran or just somebody who's in crisis. So yeah, 988 star one. And what I love about that commercial is it symbolizes trauma knows no color,
Yeah.
knows no race,
Age.
anything. It doesn't matter. So if you look at that commercial and look at the people that are writing on that board, they're all different nationalities, all different age. And we've said everything that's on that board. Like earlier today, I was walking in the VA hospital, and another Marine walked by, and he's like, "How you doing today, Devil Dog?" And I said, "I'm hanging in there." And I just got done with PT, and I literally was friggin' just hanging in there because I was,
At wit's end.
yeah, I was in so much pain. And but it's one of those things. We as veterans, we have that protective gene. We don't want to tell the people that we love the most something's wrong.
Yeah.
And that's why we started this right here. Hashtag be someone stranger. And what I mean by that is we as humans are more apt to talk to somebody who's a complete stranger than we are the ones that we love the most because of that protector gene.
Yep.
So hashtag be someone stranger. And you have to ask that next hard question and really mean it. And what I mean by that, you can go up to Sam and say, "Hey Sam, how you doing today?" And Sam's going to say, "Oh, I'm okay. I'm hanging in there. I'm living a dream," something, but know damn well that he's lying to you right from the
I
get.
mean, most of my dreams are nightmares, right? So I mean, a nightmare is a dream.
Right. So you have to ask that next hard question. How are you really doing?
Yeah.
But when you ask that question, you actually have to be ready for that conversation. It could be a 5-minute conversation, could be a 3-hour conversation, or a 5-hour conversation. You have to be ready for that conversation. So be someone stranger. And then Homefront Sitrep is on Reach Across America Radio. So you can go to reachacrossamerica.org/radio, or you can find it on the iHeartRadio, iTunes, or TuneIn, or the Audacity app. Just search up Reef, and then you can look at for Homefront Sitrep. We are on there Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you catch us there. This week will be Miss Philippia Bagley, who we had on last night. She'll be the episode coming up this Thursday.
Yes.
So
If you're not knocked out from too much turkey and gravy and potatoes, be sure to tune in. And it's 11 o'clock Eastern.
Eastern, yes, sir. And then if you are a veteran and you are having difficulties filing your VA disability claim, or you want a second opinion, reach out to askmonica0@gmail.com. Monica Sanford is a nurse practitioner down in the state of Florida. She also works with the VA, helping veterans get their veterans benefit. She's amazing. She's one of our partners here on Homefront Sitrep, along with Heroes Media Group, Veterans Voice Radio, Military United podcast streams, and Reach Across America. So let's play that commercial real quick. So yeah, reach out to askmonica0@gmail.com, and Monica will answer you pretty quickly. I just met a veteran the other day. Okay, Bubba.
My kid wanted me to wear it like that the entire show. I'm like, you are out of your mind.
Yeah, definitely. So I met a veteran the other day, and he's like, "Hey, I got denied for my disability." He lives up in Mass, and he's like, I got denied for my disability." And I was like, "Oh, really?" And he goes, "Yeah." He says, "I don't know what my next step is." So I got him connected with Miss Monica. She had a Zoom call, and he's in the works of getting his disability. So
Good.
amazing thing. So reach out to Monica. Her husband.
You can't do it alone.
Yeah, you can't. You
It's
can't.
hard. I mean, there are certain things that, like I've said before, the doctors want to hear. There are certain things that the raters want to hear. There's certain verbiage that they want in the paperwork. It's hard to go at it alone. I mean, I retired in 11, and I just got 100%, last December,
Yeah.
and I went at it alone for a long time, and then finally got a VSO involved, and things went quick. So
Yeah, and like me, I've just started the process. I'm at 40%, and I'm as far as I can go right now on my own. So I'm actually getting ready to go through a DAV, a Veteran Service Officer DAV.
they're one of the best ones you can get.
Yeah. So when I was talking with the lawyer that helped me get my service records and my medical records and stuff like that, he said, dude, they underrated you for your PTS. They gave me 30% instead of bumping it up to 50 or 60, whatever. He said, you definitely need to file for an increase for that. And then I got to throw everything else that got denied already. And I know why. It was because my primary care, when I said, hey, I need to go to this doctor, this doctor, this doctor, and get these appointments set up, she's like, well, one thing at a time. I'm like, I don't have time to do one thing at a time. I want to get it all done now. And she's like, well, we'll just work on it. So I actually
especially for you that you're so far away from the main hospital.
Yeah.
It's stupid for you to go to one appointment and then a week later come back instead of booking a morning appointment, an afternoon, then a late afternoon appointment, and get everything done.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's just like, we got to do one thing at a time. I'm like, no, I'd rather get all this done now. And so when I go back this time on, I think December 4th or something like that, I got to go back and see the primary care. I'm gonna be like, hey, this is what I need. If you're not willing to do this, I need a different primary care because
ask her for an outside resource. If she's not willing to do it within the VA, ask for outside resource.
Okay. But it's about that time of night, Mr. Sam. I'm going to wrap this up.
Before we jump off here, though,
yes,
I gotta say happy birthday to my stepdad, and also to my brother from another mother, my son's godfather, Master Gunnery Sergeant Joshua Mount, who is still on active duty. Just went over, I think, his 27th year on active duty. So, just want to say happy birthday to both of them.
I wish you had told me that earlier. I would have had the happy birthday song loaded up and ready. I mean, I could play the Marine Corps happy birthday song.
We're good, man. Let's wrap it up. Michael's been back there for like 15 minutes waiting on us.
Right. So, like we always say here on HomeFront Sitrep, stay safe out there. We got
your six.
Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show.
Suggestions and comments are always welcome.
Cannot wait to have another great show with y'all.
Don't forget you can find HomeFront Sitrep on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or wherever you get your favorite podcasts.
Stay safe out there. I got your six.